The life of Isabel Richard took a tragic and mysterious turn when an accident during a boat trip apparently cost her her life. She was known for her passion for sailing and the sea, which made her death both tragic and ironically poetic. The news of her death shook high society, as Isabel was not only a socialite, but also a benefactor. Beloved by many for her philanthropic contributions, the day of her funeral was shrouded in thick fog, as if the heavens themselves were mourning her departure. In the chapel of the vast Van der Bilt family estate, friends, family members, and associates gathered, all dressed in dark mourning colors. The coffin, an elegant cherrywood casket, was placed at the center, surrounded by a sea of white flowers and flickering candles. Inside the coffin, Isabel was dressed in her favorite silk dress, her face serene and made up to look peaceful. However, beneath the appearance of eternal rest, a storm of confusion and terror raged. Isabel awoke to the sound of a violin solo, her foggy mind struggling at first to comprehend her situation. "This isn't possible, I'm dead," she thought, panic growing as her consciousness solidified. But snippets of conversation began to penetrate her foggy mind. "She will certainly be remembered as a great woman," said a male voice, probably one of the many businessmen Isabel knew. "Yes, a true tragedy, so young," replied a trembling female voice, filled with an emotion that wasn't entirely sincere. As Isabel listened, the reality of her waking during her own funeral dawned on her. "I must stay calm. I must understand what's happening," she told herself. She then decided to remain still, striving to breathe shallowly, almost imperceptibly, as her mind worked to piece together what had happened. What had first seemed like the end was revealing itself to be the beginning of something deeper, and perhaps more sinister. Isabel, trapped in her own coffin, was determined to uncover the truth behind her mysterious accident and the true intentions of those around her. The decision to feign death was her only advantage in a game she was still trying to understand. As she lay motionless in her coffin, the voices of her supposed loved ones reached her, each whisper a stab in the heart. The luxurious, silk-lined coffin had become her private box for a show of betrayal. The pain of the discovery was sharp, but Isabel knew she had to arm herself with information before acting. "Do you think anyone suspects us?" asked Caroline's soft voice, barely concealing her nervousness. Isabel recognized the hidden fear under the facade as Jean, with the calm of an experienced conspirator, responded in a whisper almost inaudible. "No one suspects a thing. Everything was very well organized, darling. Now that Isabel is gone, we can finally be together without having to hide." Isabel felt a chill run down her spine at Jean's words. The shock of his betrayal was predictable, but the coldness and premeditation were astonishing. "But what if she had discovered something before, you know, the accident?" Caroline insisted, the word accident having a double meaning. Jean burst into a deep, cruel laugh. "Isabel never suspected a thing. She was too busy with her charitable projects and social activities. Plus, now she can't get in our way." The details of their conversation revealed not only an emotional betrayal, but also a possible plot to eliminate Isabel permanently. With every word, the heiress betrayed strategic precision, knowing she would need every bit of information to exact her revenge effectively. Isabel remained still, even as anger welled up within her. "I will wait, I will plan, and when the time comes, they will pay for every word, every betrayal," she silently promised as the funeral music continued to play, masking the sound of a conspiracy beginning to unravel. After hearing the explosive revelations from Jean and Caroline, Isabel found herself at a critical crossroads. The painful betrayal and the discovery of a possible plot to eliminate her could push anyone to burst out of the coffin in fury and confrontation. However, as anger boiled within her, Isabel chose a more calculated and strategic approach. She decided to continue the ruse of her death by remaining still and silent to gather more information and formulate a meticulous plan of revenge. Inside the coffin, as the funeral hymns played and prayers were whispered, Isabel heard footsteps approaching, soft steps, those of someone trying not to attract attention. She recognized the whispering voice of her Aunt Marian, a shrewd woman who had always been wary of Jean's intentions. "Do you really think it was an accident?" whispered Aunt Marian to her companion who approached. "I don't know, Marianne. This whole situation seems strangely convenient for Jean," replied Sarah, her voice laden with suspicion and worry. The whispers of the two women confirmed Isabel's suspicions and strengthened her resolve not to move. She realized that by revealing herself now, she would lose the chance to uncover the full extent of the betrayal and risk putting her own life in danger again. "I must be patient. I must be cunning," Isabel told herself, while continuing to listen and starting to hatch scenarios. "They mustn't know that I know." Throughout the funeral, every gesture, every word exchanged around the coffin became an essential piece of the puzzle that Isabel was reconstructing with meticulous care. Knowing who was an ally, who was an enemy, and who could be persuaded to switch sides was crucial for her vengeance. The challenge was immense, but Isabel was determined not only to survive, but also to unmask those who had betrayed her so deeply. The decision to remain motionless in the coffin had become her shield and her most powerful weapon. She would be the silent spectator of her own funeral, collecting every confession, every whispered plan, preparing for the moment she would rise not only as a betrayed woman, but also as a formidable adversary. As the funeral progressed, Isabel, hidden under the mask of her own death, continued to gather crucial information. Every whisper and discreet conversation around her coffin revealed not only the extent of her husband Jean's and his lover Caroline's betrayal, but also began to unveil dark secrets about her own family and the management of her fortune. In a particularly revealing moment, two of her distant cousins, who rarely interacted with her directly about the family's financial affairs, approached to offer their condolences. They briefly looked at the coffin with an expression of superficial grief before retreating to a discreet corner of the chapel. "Do you think she knew about the Swiss accounts?" asked the younger cousin, a man known for his greed and lack of discretion. "I highly doubt it. Isabel was never as involved in the financial details as she should have been," replied the other, his voice tinged with casual cynicism. "But now that she's gone, we can maybe adjust a few things without too much worry." Isabel, listening intently, felt a wave of betrayal and indignation. The Swiss accounts were part of an emergency fund that only she should have known about. The revelation that other family members not only knew about the fund, but also intended to manipulate it expanded the scope of her disappointment and anger. Armed with this new information, Isabel realized that the conspiracy against her might be broader and more complex than she had initially thought. Her own circle of friends, those who were supposed to protect and preserve her legacy, were involved in schemes that went beyond personal betrayals. They threatened the entire Richard family heritage for their own benefit. "This changes everything," Isabel thought, almost imperceptibly. The anger and sadness she felt were now accompanied by a renewed determination to unmask everyone involved, not only to avenge her personal betrayal, but also to protect her family's future and fortune. The revelation of these secrets not only reinforced her determination to remain still and hidden for the time being, but also gave her a new objective: to restore the integrity of her inheritance. The task was immense, but Isabel was ready to face the shadows of her own family to bring the truth to light. With every secret discovered and every betrayal revealed, Isabel Vanderbilt, still motionless in her coffin, refined her plans for meticulous vengeance. The betrayal of Jean and Caroline had been the triggering element, but the financial manipulations and now revealed family conspiracies amplified the extent of her reprisals. She knew that every word she heard was not just a betrayal, but a clue to how she could reclaim her power and protect her legacy. "Once I get out of here, they will know what betrayal means," Isabel murmured, every word charged with the promise of retribution. Her plan was not only to denounce Jean and Caroline, but also to ensure that the family members who had conspired against her would face the consequences of their actions. In the final moments of the funeral, as the mourners began to disperse, Isabel took advantage of the relative privacy to finalize the details of her strategy. She would start by gathering concrete evidence of the conversations she had heard, perhaps through recorded confessions or testimonies from still loyal allies. Then she would confront Jean and Caroline, not only to see the shock on their faces, but also to get their explicit confessions. Additionally, she planned a complete audit of the Van der Bilt family finances. With the help of a trusted lawyer, she would trace every misappropriated penny, every secret account. They thought they could manipulate my inheritance without consequence. I will show them how wrong they were, she thought. The final stage of her revenge would be the most public. Isabel envisioned a family gathering where she would reveal all her discoveries, ensuring that those who had betrayed her could not find refuge in lies or compassion. She already visualized the scene, the expressions of surprise and fear, the pathetic attempts to justify their actions. It will be a spectacle they will never forget, concluded Isabel, a cold smile touching her lips. The irony of planning her revenge at her own funeral had not escaped her, but today, more than ever, she was determined to emerge from this ordeal not as a victim but as a force of justice and truth. After all, no one would expect a dead person to come back and settle the score.